take a comprehensive approach to prosperity, we also are big believers that in the grand plan to future-proof your institutions, you cannot lose the very ground that you're standing on.
On the transactions, why they fail, generally process. My name is Rick Byer. I'm the chair of the board of Core Education. I'll be joined today by Kamalika Sandel, our CEO.
So we take a phased approach to prosperity. The way we do this, we are mission critical operating partners to you. So comprehensiveness and holistic services are very, very important to us. How do you assess where your institution is? This whole definition and concept of affiliation ready is something that we are underscoring deeply. Mergers, acquisitions are irreversible decisions that require change of control. You have to be very clear, what is the why? Now, the fallacy in that is, the low enrollment programs, there are students that are enrolling. Those students want those programs. Not that it shouldn't be a focus, but instead of that, a much larger focus is, can we make your current programs more profitable through new delivery models? And again, instead of cutting cost, we look at a spectrum of cutting costs, diversify revenue, and releasing strategic capacity collectively. If your cost architecture is primarily fixed cost, that's a very, very inflexible model. It is a very inflexible model. You cannot flex on time, and it's a high cost model. There's a very direct correlation here between high academic delivery expense that then creates the low margins and large operating deficit. Greater than 75% of revenue is campus-based undergraduate. That's a red flag, because diversification has to be part of what we lead the market with.
We're going to now start talking a little bit about the competitive environment for mergers, affiliations, and partnerships. But number one and number two particularly are vastly different than the third category of strategic mergers, which we generally are all kind of, when people talk about mergers, acquisitions, generally speaking, everybody's thinking about this number three category. Actually, very few of these that actually get done successfully. On the buy side, what's the strategic rationale when organic growth won't be enough to bridge your prosperity gap? So you have to know what the prosperity gap is, and you can say, we can't get there, or we don't have the time. We don't have the time. We may have the money, we just don't have the time to get there. And there's a window of opportunity to make substantial strategic gains during this era of consolidation. For the sell side, what's the strategic rationale from that? Preserve the legacy and mission of the institution, sustain and transform the institution. Because in many parts of the transaction, particularly if it's in the coordinate agreement and the affiliations, there's an opportunity to actually keep the legal entity remaining and your board remaining. This is why it's so important to think about your value proposition, and we'll help you through all of that to put your best life forward. The decision matrix on both sides of the equation helps gain some clarity on what type of institution you're seeking. The market research that then aligns with the corporate research, and then the scenarios for the transaction. And so what's happened now is, when we take a look at the numbers, particularly now we're going to go back into the academic delivery cost numbers. Now, those are just really big telltale signs. And I could tell you probably at least 9 out of the 10 institutions don't know that number at a real detail level that they should. So as you think about a prosperity plan, you can say, okay, how could we take, if our cost is 67% of net tuition, what do you think we can do to our plan to get towards 40%?
Can you build out a plan that gets the institution to prosperity, knowing what the prosperity gap is that needs to be traveled in terms of annual margin requirement? And that's the integration, that's the time it takes. But when you get to the other side, the elements of the business model, the key tenets of the business model are solid, and the institution can start growing again because those foundational elements are right. sometimes the biggest myth that we are debunking is the realization of how much time is there. Getting into this conversation earlier than later gives a lot of control to the institution, a lot of control on choices. Getting into it late takes that control away.